we'll go ahead and
No, it's all good.
get started here. So, well, first of all, I want to welcome everybody to our webinar here today on GEMS, and I kind of use this. I stole this from Chris Kenny, the hub of information. That was one of his comments about the program, and thought that was a good description there. So I want to introduce our panelists: Chris Kenny from the Patterson Club, Philip Prude from Wichita Country Club, and Matt Fuller from Caves Valley Golf Club. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to share your thoughts and be involved in this discussion today. So thank you, gentlemen, for being here with us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And some of you probably heard some of that conversation there. They've, Philip's got some construction going on at Wichita. Matt's got some things going on there. Chris is, always learning from everybody. So it's it's good to have these guys on with us here. I thought what I'd do is start out with just a kind of an overview of what is GEMS, and for those that don't know, a lot of people probably on this call maybe have seen what the program is, but kind of on a high level, we say it's a service that improves customer satisfaction and everyday efficiency. It's an online tool that supports a support tool that monetizes information on member preferences, and a solution that focuses on the management of golf shop operations. So I kind of think those are some high level descriptions of the program, and we can delve into that a little bit more as we go here and get your thoughts on that, guys, as and how these things maybe work in your operation. So next slide here, and this is where we want to really I want to ask you guys about some of these bullet points here on what does GEMS do for you in your operation. So our first bullet point here: increased member engagement. Chris, I'll start with you. What can you comment about that? I mean, and just tell us, have you felt like there's been any increase in member engagement just through the use of the program?
Well, thanks, Patrick. I think that the fact that you are able to track and enter your special orders online, and that you can access that from either a desktop, laptop, or a mobile device, just on that side of it, it's helping us with our engagement in the fact that, we put that special order in, it's automatically generating a PO and an email from a staff member to the person that placed the order. So they have that sense of connection with the progress of the sale. Also, we always get people that'll ask, when you're just in your normal day, maybe on a lesson tee, somebody may at the end of the lesson say, oh, by the way, I was just checking in on this item, and you're able to look it up on your phone. So I think just in that simple area, it's been great. Also, similar email structure with demo clubs and things of that nature.
Question for you there. You just mentioned on looking it up on your phone. How would you say
Right.
How does it break down maybe for you and your staff and your engagement with the tool? Is it what's the percentage of how often are you using the mobile device versus what I call the laptop desktop version?
I'd say we probably, quite honestly, I probably use the desktop version 80% of the time, mobile 20% from a standpoint of members asking. Me personally, I use the mobile every day because one of the first things I do in the morning is I'll check birthdays, anniversaries, and then I check special orders, and I kind of do all that on my phone when I wake up in the morning. So, I'm looking at this information, sending out emails and things of that nature for birthdays, anniversaries of members. And then looking at special orders, just to see what we're expecting to come in, maybe what's overdue, just so that as we start our day, I'm on point with our staff, making sure that they're checking on things.
Gotcha. No, that's good. Good to know. Personalized service. Matt, anything you can comment here on how do you feel, and this might even just go back to increased member engagement because it's sort of could be personalized, but any thoughts there on how maybe that's the program helps you guys with personalized service?
No, I think just to reiterate, Patrick, what Chris was saying was that you can generate your own PO, and you can automatically send. It automatically generates an email which a staff member can then send to the member, which sometimes along the way can easily be forgotten if you're not using GEMS. It's easy to take down an order, place an order over the phone, and for a staff member to forget to email a member and say, hey, your piece is going to be delivered in 2 weeks. But this kind of allows myself or our staff to send out an email right away when the order is placed. So I think that's very personal for us. We've had a lot of good feedback on the emails that we've been sending out.
Good. And when we get into our little demonstration later on, I'm going to show you guys an enhancement to that email that we're going to be bringing in shortly. So that's great. Ability to anticipate needs, and this is something obviously I think is a key component of an experience and great service is anticipating needs, and what those needs are could be anything, but Philip, do you have any comment on that and how the tool can help you anticipate needs, or how do you access or get to what those needs are, of an individual?
Yeah, I think just the ability to track all of that, whether it's through the order tracker or the demo tracker, if that's used correctly, one of the things I try to get our guys on board with is understanding when you've got somebody that is truly interested in, let's just talking about the demo trackers, is somebody who's truly interested in a new club, making sure that we get all of the correct specs down in the demo tracker, so that when that guy comes back in and he talks to somebody else at the counter, that person can go directly to the demo tracker and put together the club that he'd been hitting without, giving the member the deer in the headlights look. So I think from that point, I'm not sure that really touches on anticipation.
No, I think that's
certainly be able to hit on those members' needs without too much chasing the tail. And
right.
So I think from that standpoint, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and then one other thing I'll get to when we get into the demo is how you can access a member's profile and get to information about their sizing and preferences very easily. You can see on the screen here we've got a little screenshot of the mobile app, and Chris, as he says, he uses it every day. I mean, that's something that I know, Chris, you've mentioned about accessing it while you're on the floor with a member. And that's where I think not only the order tracker, but the member profile of, you're talking to Mrs. Jones and she's looking for a gift for Mr. Jones, and being able to access his, his member profile to find out certain information. I think that's a valuable tool. But Chris, how would you approach that if you're on the floor, maybe talking to a member in the golf shop, and they're wanting to place a special order, and I know you've mentioned, hey, I pull out my phone and I do it there. How do you do that? I mean, without somebody thinking that you're sending a text or you're checking your Facebook page?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a great question. We have our cell phone policy. While we don't allow cell phones throughout the building, we do, from a staff standpoint, in the golf shop or certain locations, if we're using it for business, the staff can take their phone out. And on that, I'm just right up front, I just tell somebody, I say, depends on what the question may be. If they're asking about a special order, I may say, well, let's take a look. I've got that information right here on my phone. And when you say that, I think it automatically, the eyes open up, because in today's world of Amazon, if you will, which is that immediate service, you order something, and if you're a Prime member, you could get it the next day. Everything that our members, or the folks at our facilities, are accustomed to is becoming more and more of an immediate fulfillment. And I think that's one of the things that GEMS may be starting to allow us to do here. As Matt said, you have all this information tracked here. So I pull it up on my phone. I have, oh yeah, you placed the order that was placed on this day. Here's what the order number is. We're expecting it tomorrow, and that gives you credibility. Then it takes away the sense of doubt that the customer may have when you go flipping through a binder of pages, because in GEMS you can sort by the person's name if need be. And at that same end, we've had a situation where we've had a member come in and say, I want to get another driver for when I go to Florida. They maybe bought it in April or May, and now it comes the end of the season. They say, I'm heading to Florida. I want to get that same exact driver. Boom. Same thing. You just search it in GEMS. It pulls up all the specs, all the information that you entered. And again, I think it's giving you more and more credibility with your member, your customer, because you're organized. You can instantaneously access this information. So back to the front end of the question. I just believe in being upfront. Tell them what you're doing. Same thing on the lesson tee. If you pull it out and you're using it for videoing, I think you tell the person, listen, I'm gonna video a few swings here if you're okay with that, just so that they know, because I guess you never know what anybody's doing on their phone.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I was just curious because that would be something that I think people would be interested in. Everybody has different policies, and it's I would say a sensitive subject, but more and more, hey, this is where things are going. I mean, it's the mobility. Got to have it at your fingertips, and that's interesting.
Right. And to your point there, Patrick, is that I had that conversation with our general manager, president, and golf chairman before we started actually using the phones on the floor for something like this. I wanted them to know, because I may say it to Mr. Jones. Hey, Mr. Jones, let me check my phone here and see what we can find out about your order. And Mrs. Smith or somebody may be off on the other side of the room and see you pull out your phone, and they might not have the same understanding of what's happening. So I think at least the people that you're dealing with in the management of your facility, you need to have that conversation with them as well, so that they're on board. They know, that your staff will be using, and to make sure that they're okay with it.
Right. Yeah. So you have their support if something comes up.
Exactly.
Right. That's great. Our next. Yes. Go ahead, Matt.
I just want to follow up with one thing that Chris is saying, and that's really important. Everything that he was talking about with the cell phones, because we have a strict no cell phone policy here at Caves, and really even with our staff, as far as pulling out our phones in front of somebody, because every club is a little different. So another idea that some other clubs might take into consideration is we have a iPad that's just wired in, that's behind the counter, that anybody can use, which also serves the purpose of pulling that out in front of a member. A little bit different than pulling out a cell phone.
Yeah, no, that you're right. That does have a different look if you've got the iPad. I agree with you. I think that's a good way. Before I get to my next bullet point, we did just have a question come from our attendees, and I want to make sure that you all understand. You please ask questions at any time. We had a question from Tim, and Tim, we'll get to that later here about the policies and procedures for special ordering. You'll see kind of how the program really is, I think, and is sort of that policy and procedure for that. But anyways, so please ask questions, and we'll get to those as we go. We want to kind of keep this interactive if we can. Excuse me. The next bullet point here, customized programs. I'll actually take this one, and just to kind of explain a little bit about this. And I'm sure you all have programs in your shop, and certainly Philip or whoever want to jump in on this. But an example of a customized program is something like a ball program, which I had a lot of success with. Get on the custom ball program, and we're going to inventory your golf balls, and you can track that information through GEMS. Or we had one of our clients that utilizes it through for their cart plan. So people, they have a cart, cart club or cart plan. They can track things like that. Or if you're in, some kind of a program at the club, you can track those things through GEMS. So that's, important to know who's on those programs. Also important to know maybe who's not, so you can, potentially add them to that program. So that's something within the system that that has the capability of doing. And I don't know if you guys have any comments about that, but that option is there. And that do Chris or Matt or Philip, any of you guys do the custom ball program?
I do a custom ball program, but I do not enter it into GEMS. I just made a note to myself there.
Yeah, and Chris,
we're going to start
yeah.
GEMS, but we don't do it through GEMS currently.
Yeah, well, and obviously there would just be, just so you guys know, that you would go into the members profile and say, click, he's on the ball program, and then you have a report of who's on the ball program at least, and then you can, for something like that, that's really a great way to maximize golf ball sales. Promoting it to the people that are not on the program through the member query, which we'll show later on, is an easy way to just say, hey, I know you're not on you're not on our ball program, but would you like to be? That type of thing. So our next bullet point here, endearing members, and I'll just leave this open for any of you guys that want to jump in on that. But do you get any sense that this helps your members, I guess, being endeared to doing business with you in your shop through the things that maybe we've touched on here with member engagement, personalized service, and those and ability to anticipate needs? Do you feel like has there been any uptick in that, or do you just get a sense that maybe there is?
I'll jump in there. I do believe that this is an area that GEMS has helped us both here at Wichita and at previous places, or the last place I was at, simply because of the continuity within the staff that the program provides. I think they get just a sense of being better taken care of when it doesn't have to be the same person that they place the order with or that they check the demo club out with. Everybody's got access to all the information about the order. So any of the questions that come up tend to be answered quickly, and I think the member walks away feeling very, very well taken care of, and that we've got a personal interest in them. And so I think from that standpoint alone, I think that's how it kind of hits on that bullet point there.
Yeah, and I'm going to go to the next one because that's pretty much what you're saying there is the consistency and service, and and I think you guys can probably relate, or those that are on the call can relate, is that I was experiencing things that I didn't like from the standpoint of members asking me questions and I didn't know the answer to them. And I think what Philip was saying there is that pretty much everybody has the answer at their fingertips, for that consistent level of service. And hopefully, I think you pretty much answered that one, Philip. So that's good. Chris or Matt, anything you guys wanted to add on that?
I agree with Philip on that. His comments.
Yeah, I think Philip said it best. One other thing I want to add is it allows for more communication and more organization within your staff. It allows our staff to be more organized. We interact more together on special orders. More people within the staff are seeing which orders are being placed. I mean, you can always have a paper trail and paper purchase orders, but it's a fair amount of the time, things fall through the cracks when you have paper, anything that's on paper. And now in this day and age, I mean, how often are we keeping things on paper anymore? I mean, how many of us are keeping credit card statements on paper? You can find everything online.
Right.
So.
Yep, absolutely, the way of the world. Our next bullet point here I've got is targeted marketing, and that's kind of I don't really have a better term for that, but you're not it's not like email marketing to your members, but essentially it is through the ability to filter information, like, show me the men who are a size 10 shoe that like FootJoy, and then maybe send an email directly to just those individuals. So that's something that, every club is different on how they want to do this. Chris and I have had this conversation several times about, the option in the system to send out the questionnaire to the members, which I will show you later here shortly, that collects information like sizing and preferences. And, there's, we're working on Chris with his club to be able to do it, but, the ones that have utilized it, and I'll just use, for example, Jason Ballard at Oak Hill, when he sent it out, within 24 hours, he had 230 responses from his members. And, here's a guy that's in his second season at that club. And, we bridged the gap of knowledge of what he had, out in his membership of their sizing and preferences. And now he's got it at his fingertips and, through reports that are very easy and then you can, through that, okay, so his database of 230 people, he can now go in and say, show me, I just want to filter through women size medium shirt that like Peter Millar. Boom, you can do that easily. And there's been some studies that show if you send a promotion to somebody based on their preference or their something personal to them, you have a much higher likelihood of I would say gaining a transaction there. So that's kind of what the targeted marketing is, and I'll show you some of that when we get into it. And then what I would call inventory efficiency. This kind of goes to the targeted marketing in my experience, where I would walk into my shop, and I'll let you guys maybe interject a little bit about this, but knowing looking at the FootJoy shoes and knowing that I had the same style in size 10 and wondering, what am I going to do? I got to send them back, restocking fee. That's where I could easily go in, and I had a lot of success just identifying the men that were that size shoe and then sending them a note, and then, selling those at a some kind of maybe a discount, but at least it helped me with my inventory. So anyways, those are a couple of things there. You guys have any comments on either of those with the efficiency or the marketing aspect? Chris,
so you mentioned we have not been able to enable this yet.
Yeah.
But I view this as one of the more powerful functions of GEMS, given what you just said as well.
Sure.
It enables you to, again, build credibility. You have a higher knowledge base. You're able to talk directly to people based on sizes and preferences. I think there's always going to be a higher conversion rate for a sale when that happens. And even if it doesn't happen that time, people know that you care and they know that you're taking an interest, and in the big picture,
sure,
that pays off in things. So we're still at Patterson. We're still working to be able to do this, but I view it as a great feature.
Thanks, Chris. We did have a question going back a little bit about Matt, what he was talking about, from Justin Lawson from Nashua Country Club. Do you still use paper as a backup? So Matt, I don't know if you want to maybe address that, where you were talking about trying to get away from the paper and pencil. And there is an option, and I'll show you this too as well, that you can print out a PO, and I don't know if any of you guys do that through the system, but if you have to match up, like, put your PO with the invoice and put it with the packing slip, staple them together, hand them on to, accounting. But do any of you three guys is there paper backup in what you're doing?
No.
No on my end. I'll tell the guys to make sure to have paper on them as they're out on the floor needing to write down the SKU or whatever, but that order needs to go immediately into GEMS. Got less of a chance of being lost there than it does sitting at the counter waiting to be ordered. So
sure.
No from our end.
Matt, are you
same here?
Yeah.
Yeah, same here at Caves. I mean, we like everybody else, we've been doing paper copies forever, but starting this year, no more paper copies, and we haven't had any issues. And like Philip was saying, our staff places the order the day that it comes in for a member, and everything's been perfect doing it that way.
Good, good. Well, I'm going to jump into do a brief kind of overview, flyby demonstration here, and certainly hopefully get some questions from the staff, or I'm sorry, from the audience here. But if anybody, a lot of you I know have probably seen this already, and some of them are current clients. I see Greg Bryan's on the call. Always good to have him. But very briefly, and Matt and Chris and Philip, if you guys interject as I go here. But this is the dashboard view, what we call the dashboard view of GEMS. And when our clients log in, they come in and they see some information about their members. We bring in upcoming birthdays. So it was always important for me to know whose birthday is today, whose are coming up, because I always view these as opportunities for potential sales in the shop, reaching out to Mrs. Lehman before Mr. Lehman's birthday, and then, following through that process there. So I always felt like there was a lift in sales that could be had if there was a good process for, for following through on that. And I know several of our clients, they love the fact that they can just log in and make a call to whoever's birthday is that day, and the impact that's had on it. If any of the Chris or Matt or Philip, have you had any experience with the birthdays, and how has that helped at all for you and your staff?
It has.
It's helped us quite a bit, just from a standpoint of interaction at the counter. I've just made a note here to we need to do a better job of utilizing that and reaching out to members, as you just mentioned right there, for potential sales. But from an interaction standpoint, I think it's great.
Yes.
Good. So then,
I like too, Patrick, is the fact that you show number of days in advance. Sorry.
Yeah. How
some
far
systems don't always show exactly.
Yeah, and that, my quick story on that was that, and everybody kind of probably has but POS systems. But I was using a POS system at the time that brought up a screen that had you were ringing somebody in, and there at the bottom was their birthday highlighted, and I just have this memory of looking at it and seeing it was 2 days ago, and I'm thinking, what am I going to say? Happy belated birthday. So it was one of those moments where I was like, I need to be out in front of it, versus behind it. But so the next little gadget over here is probably a fairly important one for those that are utilizing our program, the order tracking gadget. So this would be really telling you what's out of place in your order system. So any orders that need to be placed, hopefully this is a demo club I have made here, but hopefully you wouldn't have an order to place that was 41 days old. You might have some issues there. But it gives you the view of, hey, I need to take action here. Overdue orders, again, 153 days overdue. Hopefully that wouldn't happen, but and then we look at received deliveries but not delivered to the member yet. So there's most of our clients probably don't have this many POs. I just need to clean this up a little bit. But to get into this PO, so say, hey, I want to access this PO, I just click on the number, and then it jumps right into the order tracking system here. So kind of real briefly, day in the life, you're in the golf shop. We do have the mobile app, but as Chris said, you're behind the counter, so you're probably maybe using this program if you can get to your point of sale computer. Member gives you take the details of what they want, Peter Millar sweater vest or whatever that is, and instead of going to what I would say maybe your PO book, you would now come to the system here to enter that information. And pretty straightforward process here. So, you select your vendor. You'll see that we bring in the account number, then also the phone number for that vendor. And you click add to auto-generate a PO, unique identifier, and then you put your details of the order in. So I'll just type in some basic stuff. Obviously, you want to be as detailed as possible here. Then you track it or tag it to a member, guest, or stock. Typically I would say it's probably going to be for a member, but you type a couple letters of the last name and it'll jump right to that. Give it an expected delivery date, Peter Millar, let's see, it's probably going to be 7 or 8 days, and you click add. at this point it asks, and this is what some of the comments were earlier about the communication, it's asking, would you like to notify the recipient of the status? So, again, day in the life for you guys, member walked out the door, excuse me, you just put the details in, haven't actually ordered it with Peter Millar yet, and as whether you write it down on a piece of paper or you put it here, is phone rings, another member walks in, got to go give a lesson, got to go check pace of play. Could be a number of things. You don't necessarily place the order right away. Does that ever happen with you guys, or do you guys get them placed right away?
We try and get them placed right away, but
yeah,
it doesn't always happen.
It can happen, and what happens here is that now when you log in, whether it's an hour later or 20 minutes later, or whoever logs in, they see that there's an order for Jeff Ogilvie that needs to be placed here. So access the PO and then place the order. And there's a number of ways. And Philip, I know when at your last facility, Philip, it was important for you guys to email the vendors. You liked to email the inside reps. I don't know if you still do that much. Are you still doing that, Philip?
Yeah, we are. I think we've had to be, we have to understand who we're emailing. I would tell you that like our Peter Millar, if they're just so overwhelmed with orders coming in, we don't get the instant feedback that we do from others. So for some we do, but I've just designated a couple of them that just pick up the phone and call it in.
Sure.
So we know immediately that the order's been placed. So.
Yeah, and I think Matt, if I'm not mistaken, Matt, you mentioned where, it had gone, somebody missed the email or whatever. So, and that was always my concern. But I know we do have several vendors that there are several clients that specifically just like to email their vendor. So we have the option for it. Personally, I like to have the confirmation right then, call it in or go to the B2B website or whoever, you're dealing with. But you can email the vendor. So you would just click email vendor, and then it brings in the email for that person that you've identified in the vendor file, and then you can send an email. But let's say you're going to call that order
just
in.
To follow up,
Yep.
Patrick. One quick comment. I think it's just important, as a staff, if you're emailing a vendor, whether it's your rep or whether it's an inside contact person with the company, just to at the very end asking for return or a reply back with the confirmation number. That way you know for sure that it got placed, and it always eases my mind when I get an email back saying order's been placed, you'll have it in 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way this kind of works here is whether you email it or you call it in, when you get that confirmation, you would put your order number in this field to tie that back into, if you need to call back and say, hey, I'm checking on order 234234, and then you put today's or whatever date it was that you ordered it. You're confirming I ordered it on the 16th, and you update that information. Then would you like to notify the recipient? This is where best practice, yes, I'm going to email the member. And a couple things on this that a lot of our clients have mentioned is that, and this is where I'll show you, we're going to have an upgrade to what this email looks like. And I know, Chris, we talked about this several years ago about bringing in your logo. So we're going to be doing that here shortly, where
Yes.
the club logo will be in the email. But a couple things here is they get all the information. The expected delivery date, we've had clients say that drastically reduces their, where's my order, phone calls and emails, because they have that information. They know, instead of, ordering the vest and then 2 days later they call you and ask if it's in, and, no, it's not in yet. They now know it's going to be, what the expectation is. So, so sending that quick, message when you order it is a great service to the member, but also just gives them more information. And then there's, the communication that happens when you receive it as well. So that's important. Those two pieces of communication I feel like are, very important. And I know from personal experience that I was delivering my orders quicker because of that, that communication that went to the member right when the product came in the door, that boom, your product's in. Do you guys, Chris, do you feel like your order, do your orders get delivered? Do you think you're more efficient in delivering your orders because of the communication in here?
I do. I think I don't know if we're more efficient. I mean, I think they maybe are picked up faster.
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yes.
Because our practice would be, place it in their locker. Let's say if the item came in, and I think sometimes previously that lag time to when they got it was a little bit longer. Now they get that email. I think they're excited. It helps.
Sure. And that's one thing I know Matt and I had a conversation on, and Matt, if you want to touch on that, but they do that when they're, when their products come in, they put them in their locker and they consider that pretty much delivered. So, there's a couple of ways that, when you go through this process here and you're receiving it and delivering it, I think, and Matt, I don't want to speak for you here, but I think what you were doing was, or you were going to start doing, is actually putting in the receive date and the deliver date, because you guys are putting them in the lockers right away, right?
That's correct. I mean, we don't have many local members as it is, but clubs, any clubs that get delivered typically go down to the performance center, and any product that gets delivered goes into their locker. So yeah, so we consider that delivered, because as soon as it comes in, that same day it's going over to the locker.
Yeah.
So the receive date and the delivered is really the same day.
Sure.
For us.
Yeah, and the way I looked at it was that I had the option sometimes to do that, but also, there might be times when it was sitting in the office. So, I wanted to make sure that we were aware of what wasn't delivered to the members. So depending on what your process is there. Touch on a couple things on the reporting features here. There's an audit report. Essentially, it's a trail of who had a hand in this order. So you can, if you have a question on an order, you can see who the staff member was that created it, or who had a hand in that. So hopefully you can be more efficient that way. There's an open order report, a snapshot of what's going on. What orders are out there. It kind of keeps you on task for what you're trying to accomplish there. And then there's other features in email. Again, email the vendor. The print is the PO. It's just a PO of what that order is. So anyway, going back to Tim and his question with policies and procedures, I'm hoping, and the reason what my thought was when this was developed was that this would be, there's really it's kind of foolproof. I mean, you got to sort of follow that process. So it I don't know, Tim, hopefully that answered your question on sort of the policies and procedures. Do you guys have anything written, Philip, do you have any written policies and procedures around your special order process?
Yeah, we do. And I would just kind of go back to maybe emphasize one piece here is on that. I think one of the unique things about this is that you have so many filters to catch things that may have slipped through the cracks. And so if you use this correctly, when you're looking at the vendor order number or the order date, as long as you leave that blank, you've got a way to catch it on the dashboard. And to me, that's one of the most valuable pieces to be able to quickly look at the dashboard and see that an order hadn't been placed, or maybe just a staff member just has not updated the order, or whatever it is, but it sparks communication within the group to make sure that these orders are getting placed. And I think if you follow kind of the directions, and you'll end up, I think, generating your own operating procedures on how to use this based on how much information you want to have, getting down to receive dates versus delivered dates, those types of things. I think it's just you kind of, it takes a little bit of a training period, but you end up coming up with your own what works best for your operation. Mm-hmm. But the tools are there, and one thing that you've shared with me before, Patrick, is at the end of the year, looking at, you start analyzing your vendors. I don't know if you're going to get to this point or not, but like who took the longest to deliver items, just in general.
Right. Some of the analytics.
Those delivery
I'll pull up
things.
One of these while you're talking here. Yeah, so we do analytics on, like Philip mentioned here, of how many orders did you do with Titleist? How long did it take Titleist to place an order or to deliver an order? So there's a lot of information just on the back end that we can pull out, hopefully giving our clients more knowledge about what's going on. So there's a summary here, what's the average PO time, the average vendor time. There's a lot of detail based on the use of the tool. What Philip was talking about was vendor performance. So this report would be, here's, how many did we do with Peter Millar? How many, did we, what was their average time that they had it? Some information that, who knows, you might sit down with your rep and say, hey, what's going on? It takes on an average 21 days to get an order here. Maybe you want to look at your customer service or something like that. So, but hopefully making you a little more knowledgeable about what's going on. But thanks for bringing that up, Philip. Any questions or any comments from either the audience or from our panel about the process here? One thing I wanted to maybe show was the mobile app. So obviously this would be, where you're, like Chris was mentioning, accessing on your mobile device. You can get to your order tracker, your demo tracker, your task manager relatively quickly, and do the things you need to do. So if you wanted to issue a demo club or get to your orders, you're just obviously you're thumbing this on your phone, and then you can pretty much do everything that you can in the in the regular version of it. But if there aren't any questions on this, and certainly happy to take them at the end or as we go here, but I'm going to jump to the demo tracker, touch on that briefly. So the demo tracker essentially, it's a what I call an inventory type system where you enter the clubs into your demo club list. It's hopefully a relatively seamless process. You're dealing with a lot of drop-down menus, but the process here is that we auto-generate a tracking number, which you can use that tracking number or you can overwrite it if you have your own system. But it's just a unique identifier for this club, and then you're putting the details of the club that'll sort of be underneath that number, if you will. So you're just going to say Titleist, 915D2, and it's a 10 degree. You can put a lot of information in, but essentially type, make, model, and loft are really the key ones. I would always put the serial number in as well, and then you click Add New Demo Club, and I don't know how you guys do it, but I always just affix that number with like a Brother P-Touch label on the club. If it was a driver, like underneath the hosel, sort of where it's rounding out a little bit. So if it was sitting in a bag, I could see it, or if I was handing it to a member, I could see it pretty quickly. And then at that point, all you need to know is 8491, I need to tag to whoever, Mr. Jones. And this is where, Chris, what you had mentioned about the, utilizing it on the floor or out on the practice tee, you're doing that fitting, you can issue the demo club to that member very, very quickly. Anyways, the process there is pretty much an in and out. You tag it out. If it's tagged out to an individual, then, like this one's out to Lanny Watkins, 4950, that's not going to be on the drop-down list to be able to tag out to another individual. So it has to be returned before it can be tracked out to somebody else. You guys have any?
Patrick, I think also. Oops.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think also the ability to search the history on the demo club.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the wife will come back in. I'm not sure if you said that or not.
No, that's great.
They'll come in and ask. Yeah, they'll ask about a club maybe their husband or their spouse hit. And again, I think both. I think Matt maybe mentioned it earlier, as well as Philip, that the system really brings the communication in your team to another level, brings everybody together, gives everybody more of a sense of ownership, because now any staff member, instead of saying, oh, let me go check with Johnny to see what Mr. Jones was hitting during the lesson or the last time he checked this out, you can go in and now any staff member can see what the history was for, as you have Mr. Palmer, and what he hit and what he hit last and whatnot. So
yeah, you can.
I just think it helps.
No,
overall.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Chris, and that's that is an important part of it. Then you can search this out a number of different ways by member or by what I would say club type. So if you wanted to look at, hey, who's been playing our drivers, here's the history of who's had the drivers out. Could be some opportunities for reach out, tracking number. So I always kind of joke, club comes in and has a dummy mark on it and you want to see who the last member was because they probably need a lesson. You can get to that information as well by individual club. And then the other feature here is there's a report you can print up of the active demo club. So this would be like an inventory type of report. You can print this up, have hand it to your staff, have them just check, yep, check, we have that club. If it's out with a member, it's listed on here. Maybe we need to go check Laney Watkins' bag to see if he has it. So that's another redundancy. And that's a word, Philip, you were kind of talking about earlier about, being able to check up on the orders, making sure that it was placed. I think one of the key words in this system is that there's a lot of redundancy, meaning that, if I miss it, hopefully somebody else doesn't miss it. There's somebody checking the checker, if you will. So I think there's less maybe things that fall through the cracks. Does that make sense for what you were talking about, Philip?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the only thing I would add to that is that if you're putting this software into place, I think the biggest point is training your staff to constantly be looking at this, because just like anything, if you're not using it, obviously it's not working for you. So you got to train your staff to be looking at this constantly to be able to get the information and the service that you're trying to get by using this software. So
sure. And to that point, we do, Brian Smith, who's on this call, and I do a lot of one-on-one, training, screen sharing with clients, making sure that, what we recommend is that clubs identify, we kind of call it a tech caddy. Your staff member, could be you, it might be your staff member who's the one that really has the answers for the other staff members. So like an on-site person that has that expertise that can be the go-to person. I think that's been successful, having it implemented. But certainly we're there, to help train and hopefully answer questions as they come up. So let's see if I think we're pretty good on the demo track. I want to touch on the last part of this is that I want to talk about today. And there's other options in here, but we really like to have people start with what our core parts are, which are the order tracker and demo tracker. Then the other side of this, which is the what I call the GBN complementary portion, is the questionnaire that you can send out to your members. And what that looks like is, let me pop it up here. So an email can be sent through the system to your members. It would come from you. It would have your logo, and they get a message from Chris Kenny, and Chris is telling them what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how they're going to benefit from it. And then a link, click here for the Patterson Club survey. They would open it up, Patterson Club logo. It takes about, what I've measured out is about 90 seconds to complete. Nothing is required, but what golf ball do you play? What glove do you play? Shoes, vendor preferences, shirt size, shoe size, glove size. So when they submit the questionnaire, that information is instantaneously fed into their profile within the system. So again, going back to what Jason did at Oak Hill, he had access to it, right then. And really for me, I think that's pretty valuable where, for somebody like him, but think about it, the standpoint of maybe you have an entry-level assistant and then, they get access to the system. They can now, get to these preferences and hopefully provide better service and also generate more sales by knowing more about the members instead of having them there for a year or 2, 3 years before they get to the point where they have that information. So that questionnaire feeds it right into here. There's other areas. I mean, there's golf clubs. You know, you can go in and put all the details in around somebody's club, and there's a report you can email the members, a PDF that you know, maybe you have some recommendations about their grips, or you know, hey, it's time for a new driver or something like that. It's kind of an individualized report. Food and beverage and favorites. There's all sorts of you know, I wasn't happy with a lot of what the POS systems were doing, so I wanted to make an extensive profile that, you know, you could track information on an individual. And then quickly I'll show you how this filtering mechanism works. So once you send that questionnaire out and you have that database, and we recommend, you know, sending that questionnaire out a couple times a year, because what it'll do is for one thing, you'll get people respond to it the second time that didn't the first time, but also if a member did complete it the first time, when they click on the link here, it opens it up, it's going to have it's going to pull in their information that's already in their file, so they don't have to recomplete the questionnaire. They're now just maybe saying, hey, you know, I don't like Turtleson anymore, I like Peter Millar, or I went from a large to a medium, and update your information, or maybe give you more information. So we do recommend that there's some, you know, continuity there to go send that out again. But then if you want to filter that information, you can do that quickly through our member filter. And this, I always use the you know, the lucky shoe size here. If I wanted to look at the men who are a size 10 shoe, I'm filtering men size 10 shoe. I've got 39 of those, and if I want to send those individuals an email, it, you know, pulls all their names in here. I can print up a report. I can also just quickly go to create targeted email, and, you know, lucky shoe size is the subject, and, you know, 20% off today only, or something like that. So it's a quick and easy filtering mechanism that can help you communicate to the members based on, if you're wanting to promote something to them based on their sizing or their preference. If you think about it, I mean, you could probably do a different filter every day or every week of the year and come up with some kind of a promotion. You know, maybe it's today only, and you know, based on whatever information that's in the system. So, Chris, we got to get you guys to send this out. We'll get.
I think we're just
there.
about there.
Yeah, we'll get you there. But let's see. Had another question here. Do your clubs have one person that is in charge of GEMS? How many input information? That came from Tim Spears as well. So Tim, thanks for that question. And I kind of touched on that with the maybe the Tech Caddy, but Matt, do you want to talk about that? I mean, is there one person that's, hey, this is my, you know, I control GEMS, and or how is it? And I will say from my standpoint, and the idea for me was that, you know, this would be across the staff, but every operation is different, right. and I get that, you know, and there might be maybe one individual, but tell me about how that works at Caves.
Well, as a best practice, Patrick, we do have one individual that's solely responsible for GEMS. Typically, it's the staff member who's responsible for shipping and receiving. It doesn't mean that they do everything. Every one of us places orders. All of us do multiple things that are GEMS related. It's just they're responsible for keeping up with GEMS, making sure that certain items or certain orders, you know, get completed, received, delivered, billed, you know, and so forth. I think it's important that you have one individual as a staff that's solely, you know, they can even be responsible for training some of the other assistants on how to do it. But that's how we've done it this past year, and it's worked out pretty well.
Good. Philip, any comment there about what you guys do at Wichita with that?
Yeah, no, I need to get to that point where Matt is right now. I'm the guy that's just constantly checking it, and as you'd imagine, I probably don't do as good a job as I should, but that's easily something that an assistant or somebody can do. I think having that one person to just double check things, making sure things are not back ordered, or maybe they haven't been placed. But everybody needs to be, I think, ought to be trained and in putting in orders and following up as best they can.
So it sounds like, best practice having one individual who's sort of the person that makes sure everything is flowing correctly, but that everybody needs to interact with it, whether they're placing the order or sending out demo clubs, but then there's that one person that's kind of going to the dashboard to check, hey, what's going on with this and that. Is that what I'm kind of hearing from you guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
Chris, is that how you guys do it at Patterson?
It is. We're similar to how Matt described. As I said earlier, I do check it every day. I just like to know what's going on myself, but I do think it's important. And that evolved from a standpoint of having one person. I started out where everybody was just involved and quickly realized that we needed to make sure we had that one person who, at the end of the day, was always checking and following up on it. So, yes. Great.
Well, guys, a couple points I wanted to make before we ended our call here on the member query part of things and being able to send that questionnaire out. The information that you can get out of that, it's I'll show you. We have what we call a vendor preference report, similar to the to the order tracking report we looked at. It's just a lot of ways to look at this information, and so you could have a report that has the percentage breakdown of men and women for their shirt size, shoe size, and glove size. And it's kind of funny because I was sitting down with Jason Epstein and Kyle Capps from Las Campanas now at the show, and Kyle had this basically printed out, and he was taking it to his vendor meetings to say, hey, let's look at this breakdown and try to match up what we're ordering based on some of these things, so vendor preference by size, just a lot of different ways to view the information, hopefully make you a better buyer, but then also, again, on the individual basis, providing that higher level of service. And then, a couple people I spoke with down at the show also mentioned that they, had seen some lift in sales. Jim Fitzgerald had, I know he had a good year in his shop. Jason mentioned that Oak Hill, that was the best year that they had at their shop. So some first year users of our system, I think, have seen, whether it's through that efficiency or that communication, a lift in sales. And I think that's one part of it that was important when it was developed, was to drive better service, which equals more sales, and that's kind of a philosophy behind it. But guys, I really appreciate you being on the call today, and thank you to our audience. And Brian Smith mentioned that integrating GEMS is a marathon, not a sprint, which is good. I mean, I think, and that's one thing that if anybody on this call is interested in integrating this, it's like, we start you out with our order tracker, demo tracker. I mean, that's the kind of the key parts of it, and then we help you integrate that and work up from there. So good point there, Brian. And does our audience have any questions? If anybody has any questions, now would be the time. I'll kind of leave it open if anybody wants to type anything in, and certainly I can follow up if you have questions after this. But Chris, Matt, and Philip, I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your ideas and your thoughts on it. And we always want to get better, and we're let me briefly show you, Chris, so this is our email, and we're still working on this, but it'll be a little more structured, where your logo will come in to the email with the details on your order, and then potentially some vendor logos may be in there as well, but definitely the club logo will be pulled in, and I think that'll come through to your members a little. The presentation will be a little bit better there. So, and then there's some other features that I'll talk about, but I wanted to just quickly show you that. So always looking to get better, and again, guys, thank you, and our audience, thanks for being here. Actually, hold on, we got one question. Hal, I'll follow up with you on that, Hal. Hal's got a question about the cost, so I'll do that offline with him. But again, thanks for being here, and we will be talking to everybody soon. Thanks, guys.